For this session, we will be covering all the important updates on citizenship in Portugal, the most important pathways to moving to Portugal, and the story of one of our dear clients' journey here, which will be Rod Roberts, and hopefully he will join soon. And before we begin, I will leave our details in the chat to our email and our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe as we post regular updates. And as we usually do, the first 20 people who get in touch with us using our code SGP, your partner to moving to Portugal, will receive a free initial consultation with our team. So to introduce myself first, my name is Marisa Colasso, and I'm part of the team at SGP Sandra Gomes Pinto Associados. We have assisted more than 500 families here at the team, and we make sure we have a bulletproof process for our clients. And I'm joined by Dr. Sandra herself today, who, as many of you already know, is a practicing lawyer with over 30 years of experience, supporting international clients with relocation, investment, litigation, and a wide range of legal matters. She has also spoken globally on Portugal visas, investment opportunities, litigation, and arbitration. And she has also lectured in one of the top leading universities in the world at Heidelberg. And it will also be my pleasure to welcome our guests. Have they already
No,
joined?
though they haven't. I think you shall begin and they will be joining us shortly.
Okay. So to begin, I know some of the most important questions for our audience and for our viewers are on the latest updates on citizenship. So Dr. Sandra, before we begin, for those who do not already know you, maybe you could introduce yourself briefly and tell us a little bit about what you do and the team at SGP.
So my name is Sandra Gomes Pinto. I'm a lawyer in Portugal for over 30 years. I have been working also international in litigation and arbitration. These last 10 years, we focus a lot in the office, helping American, British, Canadian families to move to Portugal and investing in Portugal. So we have a team committed that these persons have a flawless legal process and to have a positive impact on their move to Portugal in a way to make what is unstandardized as standardized as possible, and to make sure all our clients have a bulletproof process and we have a good impact on their moving, on their relocation to Portugal. So we are obsessed with that, on being better and better, to being of service, and to make sure that this transition to Portugal is really good for our clients. And we are very satisfied that each day we hear of some clients saying, you know, Sandra, within some weeks of residing here, we already feel so much better.
And coming to some of the most important questions that our viewers have also sent us, the most recent changes in the citizenship law. So Dr. Sandra, could you tell us, as of today, what are the most relevant updates, and has something changed that people should be aware of?
So there was a approval in the parliament of the new project. The new project was already approved by the parliament, but is not yet in force. So at this moment is at the desk of the president. And so it's important that the approval of the parliament is already a very important move. It's a very important move that was done, but the new law is not yet in force. So all those that are in the conditions to apply for citizenship, they can do it. This is something that they can still do it under the previous regime. So those that were legally here for 5 years can still apply for citizenship under the previous regime. This is something that they can perfectly still do, and it's important to bear in mind. And again, we will still have to see what will happen with this project. So the president may promulgate it, or he may do a political veto, which is unlikely because this project was already approved by 2/3 the majority of the parliament, or there can be again a constitutional review of the process. This is something that still can happen. Oh, finally, the dear Roberts arrived. We had some technical issues, and I believe Rod is still muted. We cannot hear you, Robert. And so, but it was worth waiting because our stars have finally arrived.
Can you hear me now?
Now, yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Sorry
Finally,
for
we
the
got
delay.
you. No problem. We were a little bit worried. Then we also had some technical issues, but finally you got here. I was talking about the updates and the novelties on the citizenship law, which can also be relevant for you. Can you continue on that, Marisa? And then we will give the word, the floor to Robert.
Yeah.
Yes.
So another question that we do get is, what is the new residency requirement for citizenship, for those who are not aware?
So the new project, which is not yet in force, and I emphasize that, says that it will be necessary not 5 years of legal residency in Portugal, but 10 years. This will be for the non-Europeans. For the Europeans and people of the Portuguese-speaking country, there will be a change from 5 years to 7 years of legal residency. But I emphasize again, this law is not yet in force. I think that there is great certainty that there will be a change in the in the requirements for naturalization for 5 years to 10 years for the majority of people, and for the citizens and for the people of the Portuguese-speaking country, it will change from 5 years to 7 years. But this is not yet in force. So if you are in the conditions because you already have 5 years of legal residency, I think you should take your chance and still apply before the new law enters into force.
Mm-hmm. And a follow-up question, when does the residency clock officially start now?
According to the new regime, to the regime that was approved by the parliament, the clock starts ticking by the time of the issuance of the resident permit card. Before, in the regime of 2024, which is still in force before the new law enters into force, the clock would start ticking by the moment the person started the application. In D visa, it was by the time the people had the AIMA appointment.
Mm-hmm. And for people wondering whether if they will be grandfathered into the 5-year rule, since they are already living in Portugal, what would your comments be?
There has been a lot of discussion about this and a lot of legal opinion issued about this, but the truth is the regime that was approved by the parliament does not include a transitional regime. So I would not expect that people that are already legal residency here will be grandfather the previous law. I think for those that haven't yet submitted their applications, the new law will be fully applicable.
Mm-hmm. And what happens to applications that are already submitted?
I think those that are already submitted should be fully protected. There's nothing people should fear. And this has been the rule in similar cases, in many similar cases throughout the decades in Portugal.
Mm-hmm. And just another question from one of our clients I can see here in the chat. From Jeff Oliver, does this also impact permanent residency?
No, this does not impact permanent residency.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow up on that, how would it impact the lives of people moving here, the Americans, the British? Does this have any impact? Should they be concerned?
I think in the daily life, in the normal exercise of the foreigners that are the expats residing here, this will not impact their rights and liberties. They will not feel diminished because they are not a citizen. In very, very few and rare situations, they will feel that they are not a citizen. So this, in their normal life, will not impact our clients and the majority of expats relocating here. In their daily life, and perhaps then later Rod can tell a little bit, he won't feel he's a foreigner. He won't feel that in some ways his rights or liberties are diminished because he's not a citizen. And Portugal is just following international rules, and a decent nation and one of the ancient nations in the world should also be demanding in terms of citizenship requirements.
Mhm. And just the last question before I introduce our clients. Regarding permanent residency, as you have already talked about, how does one apply and do you assist with this process?
Yes, we also assist with this process. It's also through the AIMA. The person must have 5 years of legal residency. They must have an A2 level of Portuguese. They should have a clean criminal record. They also should have proof of accommodation and health insurance. And these are the basics for the permanent residency status. And with the permanent residency status, they can reside forever in Portugal if they wish to do so. And there are few requirements. They have to renew their card, but they don't have to go through an immigration process again. And the only stay requirements, they should not leave the country more than two years in a row, or in a 3-year period, they should not be absent of the country more than 30 months. So the stay requirements are minimal. But I believe that this is also an important aspect to mention, is that there is also an European Union permanent residency status, which is a little bit different than permanent residency. And if you apply to that regime, after 5 years of legal residency, if you want to reside in any other European country, to leave your retirement there for work purposes, to study, you don't have to go through the immigration complex visa route, but you should be granted residency if you meet minimal requirements such as health insurance and minimal proof of funds. So it's very important that after 5 years, you can apply also for an European Union long-term residency that will allow you to have a very easy path to reside in any other European country. And people do not talk about this, but this is a huge benefit. And many in other continents, we do not see these kind of benefits for those residing in the country. So for those that already have 5 years of legal residency, I would invite them to contact us if they wish to have a long-term European Union residency that would allow them to reside in any other European country if they wish to do so with a very easy path.
And we also get back to this topic because we've received a lot of questions about the citizenship updates. But before we do so, I would like to introduce our special guest speakers for today, Rod and Louise Roberts. They are originally from Scottsdale, Arizona. And Rod and Louise made the life-changing decision to trade the desert heat for the coastal breezes in Portugal. So their journey is a true success story of the visa process many of you are already familiar with. Now settled in the beautiful Algarve city of Portimão, they have successfully navigated everything from opening their bank account remotely to finding their perfect home overlooking Praia da Rocha. They join us today to share their experience of their transition to Portugal, the lessons they learned along the way, and what life is truly like now that they are officially Portuguese residents. So I'd now like to ask Rod and Louise to tell us a little bit more about themselves and what was the moment where you realized Portugal was the destination for you?
You want to go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
So thank you for having us. We're very appreciative of everything Sandra has done for us. Let me just start by saying, yes, life here in Portugal for us is literally a dream come true. I open my curtains every morning when we wake up and I look out at the Atlantic Ocean. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I actually live in Portugal. This is our home now. We're extremely excited to be here. We're actually coming up on 1 year of residence here living here in Portimão. And life is wonderful. We feel terrific. I don't think physically we have felt better than we do. Emotionally, we're just really happy. It's almost like we're on a high almost every day. And I'm not talking about being on some sort of like honeymoon where the excitement of being someplace new is causing this euphoria. It's the fact that we're living in an environment where we feel welcomed, where we feel at peace, and we feel at ease. We're actually comfortable living in a country where English is not the primary language. Down here in the Algarve, it's really interesting because if somebody chose not to learn Portuguese and only spoke English, you could live a very comfortable life here and not have to worry about a foreign language. However, for Louise and I, we want to learn Portuguese, and we're taking a class every week, to learn. It's not easy, but we're doing it, and things are really great. We're really happy.
Mhm.
When we first came here, we weren't sure where we wanted to live, so we started in Lisbon and went down the coast and stopped in every city everywhere. And when we came to Portimão, we just knew this was where we wanted to live. It just had an incredible feeling when we were here. So this is where we decided to stay. And we have a great apartment, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. Something like this in the United States would probably be double or triple, at least the amount that we're paying.
Overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, it's amazing.
Exactly. The food here is so good. The fruits have such intense flavor because they're not full of chemicals and pesticides, and it's incredible. And the bread, I could go on for days about the fresh bread. We walk to the store every day to get fresh bread like everybody else, and we're just so happy with the food, and we both feel better than we have in ages. And that could also be because of the way we're living, the food we're eating,
the fresh, clean air that we breathe.
The fresh, clean air, yes, that's a big deal. And it's great because we can walk to so many places, and it's so much healthier for us. And we really enjoy being out walking along the beach, going to the market or going to the bank or going to the pharmacy. It's just such a healthy way of life without even, really changing anything.
Stress level 0,
Right.
0 stress.
Right.
Walk outside, we're not stressed. Back in the US, it was very stressful, so our lives have taken a big turn for the better. At this stage of our lives, we're just very grateful to be here.
Right. And, as far as safety is concerned, I have no problems going out on my walks because everybody is so friendly and helpful. You don't see what you see in the United States a lot. It's just everybody's very kind. And if you ask them, to help you, they're there to help you.
Yes. And as you mentioned, Louise, you took a 7-week scouting trip across 1,000 miles in Portugal. Why was it important for y'all to see places like Portimão in person rather than just relying on YouTube videos? And what was this initial phase like for you?
It was really exciting. Like I said, we started in Lisbon and we went
all the way up to Nazaré.
We went all the way up to Nazaré because we had to see the big waves. And we went to, Cascais and Setúbal and
Setúbal, yeah.
Setúbal.
And
Yes.
Ericeira.
All the little villages and all the big villages we went through. Then we came down the coast to the Algarve and knew right away we wanted to be in the Algarve. And we went to all the, villages in between. And when we got to Portimão, there was just a feeling that we had. We felt good here, and everybody was so nice, and it was easy to settle in. So yeah, we love Portimão. We love Portugal. Things that cost so much in the United States don't cost as much here. For example, the rent, the food, restaurants, clothing. I can't believe the difference in prices. It's so affordable here. We really appreciate that, being retired. The things that we found more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to every coin, of course. We bought a new car, and that's definitely more expensive to buy here. Electronics are more expensive, but the reality is those things are, to circumvent that, additional cost. I mean, medical care, my goodness, we just came from the doctor the other day. Our bill walking out the door was 22 euros. That same doctor visit to see our general practitioner back in Scottsdale would have been over 200 US dollars. So, healthcare is extremely affordable here.
And the doctors are so knowledgeable, and they all speak English. It's so easy here, and they explain everything to you in detail. I couldn't ask for better healthcare. It's not even comparable to the services we got in the United States. I have to commend Portugal for their medical care.
Yeah.
Let her ask.
And Dr. Sandra, from your end, is this something that you would assist with, a scouting trip, if people were interested, and what would your advice be for people?
Okay, I think Rod, Roberts, and Louise did an excellent job scouting and understanding which place would make sense for them. I think a country or a place to live is something that you cannot impose on a person. People do have to understand what makes sense for them and what resonates. But we definitely can assist both in planning the trip and also or organizing with more the practical details a scouting trip. This is something we do, and we encourage all our clients to do, because to prepare properly, it's very important for the whole relocation process.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind, I will take up some questions on citizenship, because we have many questions coming in on our chat. So we have Mark Law. He's asking, when does the clock start for permanent residency?
By the moment of the issuance of the residency card. So legal residency with the new law, it starts by the time your resident permit card is issued.
Mm-hmm. And we have some questions from Nicola Smith. What is the starting place for citizenship? What are the different requirements now versus permanent residency? And can you speak about minimal funds?
No, so minimum funds, you have to show that you have the minimal to provide for yourself in Portugal. In terms of the requirements for permanent residency, now it will be 5 years of legal residency, whereas with the new law for citizenship, it will be for non-Europeans, it will be 10 years of legal residency, and these would be the two major the big differences.
And another question from our dear client, our other special clients also, Gordon Fanshaw.
Yes.
Will the language requirements change for citizenship?
No, they won't. They won't. It will be the same A2 level of Portuguese that is already requirement under the regime of 2024. That will be still demanded with the new regime.
Mm-hmm. And another question from Kimberly Feng. Can you further explain the impact on permanent residency? Does that mean the 5-year rule still applies to apply for permanent residency even under the new regime?
Yes, under the new regime, if you have 5 years of legal residence, you can apply for permanent residence. And with permanent residence, you can reside in Portugal forever. You have to renew your card every 5 years, but it's not an immigration process and a complex process. It's more a formal process. The only big requirements is that you cannot stay out of the country more than 2 years in a row altogether, or in a 3-year period, you should not be absent for the country more than 30 months. So it's a lot of flexibility in terms of stay requirements. And with the permanent residency regime, you are allowed to live in Portugal forever. So it's quite an interesting regime. And if you have the European Union long permanent status, you can easily move to another European country if you wish to do so. And this is something you can apply also after residing legally 5 years in Portugal.
Mhm. And another question on the citizenship process. Can you clarify what documents are required for this process other than proof of permanent residency, health insurance, clean criminal record, and the
yes,
A2?
yes, the A2 and proof of funds. Basically, these are the documents needed for the permanent residency.
Mhm. And a question for Rod and Louise. What was the biggest challenge you faced post-move in the first year?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, was actually just getting through the process to allow us to be here. Once we got here, it's been pretty much, smooth sailing. And I just really want to clarify something. It's very important for people to understand, we basically met Sandra in a situation just like this, as your viewers are right now. I want to say that, Sandra has the blueprint, the plan, to get us here, as residents. We now hold our residence cards because of her. When we first met Sandra, and then we took a trip to Lisbon and actually met her in person, here we are. And I want to say that, people will tell you a lot of different things that they're going to do for you. Well, I'm going to tell you something. When Sandra told us what she was going to do for us, she has actually done every single one of those things, which is why we are here today. So there's a lot of gratitude coming from us. I mean, we hired Sandra, we're her clients, we pay for her services. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably the best money that we've spent on legal services in our adult lives, because it got us here. And I just want to say thank you, Sandra. You said you were going to get us here, and you did it. It wasn't necessarily easy, and there was a lot of hurdles that we had to go through, but you lived up to your end of the bargain. So thank you for that.
No. Thank you also for trusting us. You're such an important move as moving to another continent. And it's also for me and for the whole team, it's a pleasure to have you as clients, of course.
Mhm. And before we go on to the VFS appointment and your AIMA appointment, just a few more questions. One from Ray Kennedy. Can an initial 2-year residency under D7 then transition to a citizenship by descent process?
I think these are two independent processes. You can, in the meantime, if you had started a process of citizenship by descent and you acquire Portuguese citizenship, you no longer need to continue with the residency process and its renewal. But these are two independent processes. This is not a process that you transition from one to another. The thing is, the moment you have Portuguese citizenship, you no longer need an immigration process and the renewal of the D visa, because as a Portuguese, you are entitled to live here permanently.
Mhm. And just another question from Marla Steele. So did you have no integration challenges, Rod and Louise, into the Portuguese community?
Well, I think Louise and I both agree that the Portuguese community here locally has been very welcoming and very warm. We're not looked at as outsiders, and we certainly don't feel like we're looked at like that. It's very interesting, because there was some apprehension on our parts, thinking, oh my gosh, we're actually moving to a country where English is not the primary language. So what is that really going to be like? It really takes you out of your comfort zone. But I want to tell you, living down here in the Algarve, if you didn't want to learn Portuguese, you could live a very comfortable life. There's plenty of English speakers here, not just the expats who speak English, but I'm talking about local Portuguese people who embrace the English language and actually want to speak English. Every once in a while, we try to use the little bit of Portuguese that we've learned so far. And it's really kind of cute, actually, because so many Portuguese people would prefer to speak English with us than to speak Portuguese with us, which we don't speak very well Portuguese anyways, but it's very cute and it's very comforting. And I think Louise, feels safe as a woman walking around and just very embraced, by the culture here.
Yeah. And now coming to your VFS appointments in the United States. So I'm sure it involved a mountain of paperwork. And looking back, what was the most challenging part of the application process while you were still in Arizona? And how important was it for you to have guidance through this process?
Well, I would be untruthful if I said it wasn't stressful. It was very stressful. And I can't even imagine how much more stressful it would have been had we not had professional guidance. The VFS appointment really came down to us waiting. First of all, we had to reschedule our appointment 3 times during a time when getting appointments was very, very difficult in the San Francisco office. So by the time we got our 3rd appointment, we literally were waiting that very day for our FBI documents to be delivered to us so we could catch a plane that day to make our appointment at VFS. Literally, the guy came to our door, delivered the appointments. We had our Uber waiting for us to take us to the airport. It was very stressful. But I want to tell you, once we got to our VFS appointment, we were so well organized that the VFS agent even sort of congratulated us or thanked us for being so well organized that every document was in order. It was all clear for him to read. And that was because of the guidance that we got from Sandra. Had we not been prepared by Sandra for that, I don't know how it would have gone. But it was that professional guidance that we had that once we were there, the actual process was seamless and stress-free. It was just kind of getting there that was a bit stressful.
And Dr. Santa, if you could tell us how you assist people in this phase and some of the changes or some of the most recent updates you've been seeing with appointment availability and this phase of the VFS appointment.
So when people are in the States, such as the case of Rod and Louise, it is as if we were there because we check, double check, triple check all their documents. And in that specific case, there was a special difficulty in getting the FBI and to get it apostille. This was a time where there were specific difficulties in the place they got the FBI. So we guide them on all the documentation they have to deal with, and we try to do everything we can on our end, getting appointments, filling in the forms, reviewing all the documents, getting some guidance on how exactly the appointment will be, and also the specificities of every VFS and consulate. In the case of San Francisco, to pay the fees, they only accept money orders or cashier's checks. They want you to print the list of the official documents. They will withhold your passport, but there is a possibility to get a second passport. But there are many specificities that we make sure the client complies, sometimes even comply with everything they had ever asked, in a way that even they find an inexperienced person that will ask for more stuff. We make sure people have everything they can possibly ask. Sometimes that they have a bulletproof process. Sometimes, as a disclaimer, I even say we ask for more. We ask for everything they had ever asked. In some cases, they do wanted to check the mobile of the landlord. This is something they wanted, so little details, but we make sure our clients comply with.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking at some of the questions that we are getting on the chat. I will take a few of them now. From Carrie Wyatt, do you assist with the whole process as well as acquiring all necessary documents and apostilling those documents?
We do not apostille documents, but we do give guidance to the right people, super efficient people that are working with us, and we also serve with facilitators. So at this moment, we work with very efficient people, and so we will guide the clients the most efficient way to get the FBIs and the apostilles. And we also check the timelines and talk with these service providers to make sure all the timelines are fulfilled and complied with.
And another question from Don Pan. Applying for citizenship via marriage, is the A2 language still a requirement?
Through marriage, the A2 is not a requirement if you are applying through marriage. Yes.
And a question from one of our clients, Lee Abramson. When do you
Yes.
become a tax resident?
Typically after becoming civil resident, and you, from a practical point of view, you have to go to the tax portal and you have to change your tax residency. This is in a practical point of view how it is changed. The law has several criteria. One of the criteria is residing here 6 months, have an abide in Portugal. But we've seen from a practical point of view, you do need to have the residency card and you need to go to the tax portal and change your tax address. And this is typically the timeline the Portuguese tax authorities take to consider you tax resident.
And a question from an anonymous attendee. Can you explain again about leaving the country in the first few years? Can we do an annual trip back to the US without penalty?
Yes, you can. So within the first 2 years of legal residence, you should not be, according to the law, absent from the country more than 6 months in a row or 8 months totally. But you can totally freely, once you have the residence permit card, go to the United States if you comply with these minimum stay requirements.
And for the Roberts, questions from our clients, Greta and Evan Cooper. Do you feel homesick or lonely here in Portugal? How do you feel that you miss?
Homesick? No, because we're home. This is home.
Right.
Lonely? No.
No.
We have each other and we're making, friends.
Yeah.
And our daughter who lives in Germany has already visited us 4 times, and we haven't even been here in a year yet. So we have our other daughter who's, anyways. So yeah, we're not homesick and we're not lonely.
And another question from another one of our clients, Kimberly Fang. Great to see fellow AZ transplants. What would you say was the biggest culture shock in your daily life compared to Scottsdale? Like not having to drive, daily shopping, or something else?
Yeah, we love not having to drive. I mean, we can walk to the market, we can walk to the pharmacy,
The
we
bank.
walk to the bank, we walk to the beauty salon. Well, I walk to the beauty salon. Everything is right here. We don't even need to use our car hardly ever, unless we go on errands that are, a distance from us. But it's such a nice, and you always see people walking and, hi, and everybody's friendly.
Yeah, our AZ friend will certainly know that living in Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale in particular, it's not a walkable city. It's not someplace
Yeah.
where you can just walk to go take care. It's just not built that way.
You have to drive everywhere.
Yeah, and same with Los Angeles, which is where we're originally from. So, the ability to really kind of be able to walk to all of our daily, through our daily routine it's a wonderful thing. And it's something that I didn't really think that much about until we got here and realized there are some times where our car remains parked for a week. We don't even get in the car.
Yeah.
We love it.
We love it. Kind of don't miss the Arizona summers either, by the way.
And now, before I take on some more questions from the chat, let's talk about your AIMA appointment. You faced
Ah,
significant delays with your AIMA, and how did it feel knowing you had a legal team to step in during this phase of uncertainty? And if you can talk about the day of your AIMA appointment.
can I address?
Yeah.
So IMA, I thought the VFS situation was, stressful. Wow, IMA was really an interesting experience, very, very eye-opening. And I want to tell you, again, if not for Sandra and her team being there for our IMA appointment, because they certainly were there and literally handheld us through the process of even getting in the front door of the IMA building. Because when we got there, there's a lot of people waiting outside, a lot of people. And the security guard asked us, "Do you have an appointment?" And although we did, we were having like all of a sudden an issue getting in the building. And then within like a minute, all of a sudden there's Sandra. And we walked into the building. Once we got in the building, it was even more, it was really kind of intimidating, to be honest with you, because there were so many people there. I couldn't believe how many people were actually in this little building. I don't know how we would have navigated that part of it without having Sandra and her team, because not only was she there, but her whole team was there to walk us through the process. Once we sat down in front of the IMA agent, with all of our documentation that we were well prepared for, and Sandra and her team had a binder full of everything they needed for us and all of her other clients that were there, by the way. It was an incredible event that we went through, and it really, really made both of us appreciate the lengths that Sandra and her team went through to get us, through that appointment. It was remarkable, to be honest with you, just remarkable.
And even the gentleman commented on how well organized you were.
Right. Yeah. So that was a very, very interesting experience.
And Dr. Sandra, from your end, can you tell us how you assist clients in this phase, and if there are any recent updates or changes with AIMA that you
Yeah,
can
so we make sure we prepare a file, we fill in the forms, we prepare everything. In the case of Rod and Louise, we had within a week 20 clients scheduled for the AIMA. So we worked weekends to make sure everybody had the documents, and we prepared files for each of them. We actually stayed in the AIMA because it was a long wait, so we stayed the whole day, 7 hours in the AIMA. But we managed to get the job done for all our clients, and we managed them to navigate. It was even hard to enter the building, but thank God we had everything organized and all our team was there, and we managed to have all the clients that were there, except to one of the clients that didn't bring any of the documents. It was the only case. All of other clients were completely successful because we made sure they had everything. So, and they would have been in that day rescheduled if they hadn't had everything so well organized and prepared for the appointment, because there were many people about to that had appointments. So if there was something missing, for sure they would have been rescheduled or denied just the visa.
Yes. And just another question, Dr. Sandra, could you tell us about some of the cases that you have assisted with at AIMA, and what are some of the complex situations that you have handled recently?
So recently we were contacted by someone that received a denial and had an order to leave the country immediately. And it was an unfair situation, and it was an unlawful situation. And we actually did an injunction before the administrative court and asked for an urgent measure. And this happened with an intense litigation, 30 years experience in Portugal. This happened twice in my life. The judge understood that there was an error, and within 2 days, we received a preliminary decision suspending the order to leave the country. And in the meantime, these persons were already had another AIMA appointment, and things are moving in a very favorable way, because they were really thought they had to go back to the United States. And we worked throughout the weekend, the whole team and myself included, and we managed to avoid that. And this is we had also another case of someone that had something in their criminal record. They had more than 1 year prison, but it had been quite an unfair situation. And we managed to explain that, and that according to the Portuguese constitutional and criminal rules, that would have in Portugal, that would have been erased from the criminal record. And the embassy, after an initial decision of denial, changed their decision and accept. We had 2 or 3 of these cases, because the Portuguese criminal system is based on much more of reinsertion. The person has an opportunity to have to insert themselves in. It's not so much punishment, but it's to prevent that this situation repeats itself, and that the person is well inserted in the community and in the country. So we had 2 complex cases that we managed to change the consulate's position about a denial.
Mhm. And I think this stage with AIMA is definitely the most crucial in the whole residency process. And Rod and Louise, Louise received her residency card several weeks before you did, Rod, which could be a stressful situation. How did you both manage the uncertainty of this waiting game?
I was fine. I got mine in February, and Rod had to wait until April to get his. So he was very stressed out. I was fine, like I said.
Well, one of our daughters is getting married in October, and I thought, oh my God, I'm not even going to be able to go to my daughter's wedding because I can't leave the country. I literally started crying. I was so upset. And, I called Sandra. I said, this can't happen. This can't happen. I got to make it to my daughter's wedding. And she's like, Rod, you are going to your daughter's wedding no matter what. And just how the universe works is amazing. Literally, the next day my card came. I went to the post office, CTT, and there was my card. I couldn't believe it. The universe works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? But it does work.
But even if you hadn't received, we will do an injunction, whatever. We'll go to the court, to the AIMA, and we got you to the wedding, or you'd go to the wedding.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
But also it's important to know that despite Rod's anxiety, we have been having lately, we have one of our lawyers going to the AIMA every week. So because there were problems with the delivery of the cards, and some cards, not from our clients, but from other people's, were lost. So we keep updating Rod and Louise about the status of the card situation, because the majority of people don't do that. So you were somehow privileged, because we were always giving you updates on what exactly was the situation of the card. So it was not, because there are situations where the cards were lost, were sent, and that can then create even more complex problems and anxiety. And so this is something we do for our clients, and this is rather unusual. Very recently, after the AIMA appointment, we try to track what is the exact status of the issuance of the card. And very, very few people do that, and that requires from us additional effort and many hours waiting in the AIMA to get and to obtain this information, so our clients at least know where they stand.
And now I will take some of the questions from the chat. One from Jennifer Taylor. Speaking of the AIMA appointments, in general, how long is the current wait from the first appointment to the receipt of the residency card?
So for me, this is a really hard, the $1 million question, because it can be 15 days to 3 to 4 months. They talk about 3 months, 90 working days But it varies a lot. It's still very random. It's very difficult to give a standard. But if they are not issued within the 90 working days, you can go to court.
Mhm. And another question from an anonymous attendee, being able to leave. Currently, they are here on a D7 visa,
Mhm.
and the AIMA appointment is in September. The visa will expire before then. Can I travel back to the US after the visa expires, but before the AIMA appointment?
We've had clients that did that successfully. I don't advise you to do that. What you can try is somehow you can go to try to anticipate your appointment. You might be lucky and obtain that and try to ask for it. And then you can go to the US and come back safely, because we've had clients that did this successfully. We had persons that had problems when they tried to come back to Portugal. So I would recommend you to be cautious about that. Try to anticipate your AIMA appointment.
And a question from Nicola Smith. For assisting with the citizenship applications, do you have a fee that covers the entire process, or do you work by hour? And thank you for your time.
It depends. We have a flat fee, but if there is an abnormal extension of the time of the hours needed because of the complexity, we may charge more. It depends, but this will be explained in a very transparent way.
And yeah. Yes. And another question, can you work with someone on a golden visa, Dr.
Yes, this is something we do. We normally only advise golden visa for those that are not in the position of reside in Portugal, but would like to have the possibility to do so without complying with the stay requirements. Because if a person wants to reside in Portugal and is in the conditions to do so, we advise the D7 visa. It's a simpler process and doesn't require an investment. But if you are not a condition or don't want to reside in Portugal, but want the possibility to reside in Portugal and afterwards also in Europe, then the golden visa can be a good option. But in there, you have to be cautious and analyze carefully any investment that you are doing. So it's possible to do a good investment in Portugal, and on top of a good investment, to have the possibility of residency for you and the whole family. So one golden visa investment is possible for the whole family, also for the parents, and also to include the in-laws.
And I think this next one is for the Roberts. When you do need to drive, are there any major differences in driving in Portugal versus the US? I know Scottsdale has some crazy traffic, so was it easier or harder?
I do most of the driving, so I'll answer that. The driving here is, I'm going to say, easier because there's less traffic. There's some differences. The driving culture here, tailgating is kind of an issue. You just got to get used to things like tailgating, the roundabouts. If you're not used to driving in roundabouts, I suggest that, if you start driving in Portugal, maybe learn, before you get here, how to navigate a roundabout safely. Now that there's a lot of people in town because the weather is now, gearing up for tourist season, we started to notice there's more accidents happening in the roundabouts because people just kind of don't understand how they work. They're not very, there's not a lot of them, certainly not in Arizona. They started putting some more in, and people get confused. So I would say actually the driving here technically is easier. It's good to learn, of course, the road signs, they're different, the different caution signs and all that. So, I have a printout of all the different signs and all that, but after a while, you just sort of get used to it. I like driving here.
Yes. And now coming to some more citizenship questions. A question from Armel Salientes.
Yes.
How does a longer citizenship timeline affect my NHR status and future tax exposure?
So can you repeat the question? First of all, nice to hear from you, Armel. Long time no see. We miss you. But what was the question?
How does a longer citizenship timeline affect my NHR
It
status?
doesn't affect at all. There's no connection. One thing is citizenship, another thing is the NHR, which is a tax incentive that has no connection whatsoever with the citizenship status. So it doesn't affect at all.
Okay. And another question from Marla Steele. If a client can't physically hear during the AIMA process, will it be a serious problem?
I think it's better to be here. It will, for us, it will be a problem if the client is not here when it has the AIMA appointment. We will have to do an extra effort to justify that. So we advise our clients to be here by the time they have their AIMA appointments.
And do you support clients to go to court if the initial residency card is delayed after 90 business days? And how successful is this?
Yeah, it can be successfully, but I think it's better to wait. I think court should always be a last resource and a last. You should count that probably it may take a little longer than the 90 days. That there's also a possibility, and I think we only go to court when we really there a seriousness and a special urgency that demands you to have the card before that time. And before going to court, we try to contact AIMA, to go there in person, we try other resources, and court we take it as a last resource.
And what is the language requirement for people over the age of 70? I'm assuming this is for the citizenship, yes.
I think they have to do the A2 test, but there's also a possibility to surpass this if they by any chance can prove that they are incapable of doing this.
Another a scenario by Robert Aikens. I sold my home in Palm Springs, California. I did not have to pay capital gains tax because of the length of time I owned it. Will I have to pay taxes on it here? Is there anything else I should watch out for?
So were you already tax resident when you did it or not?
Yes.
I think this is
You
an
would have to
important
know.
question, but it's also important to bear in mind that Portugal will also take into account the time you had a house, the inflation, any expenses you have on the house. So probably you won't have to pay capital gains if you were not tax resident here. Probably you don't have to pay tax gains, the capital gains. If not, this is something we will have to know the concrete details. But Portugal also takes into account any expenses you had on the house and the inflation rates from the moment you bought the house until now.
And another question from Armel. Does permanent residency without citizenship give me full SNS access long term?
Yes, it will. But you also already with legal residency, normal legal residence, you have access to SNS. You don't have to have permanent residence to access the national healthcare system.
And for the Roberts, how did you assess your tax liability before deciding to move to Portugal?
We didn't.
Mhm.
We weren't making that part of our decision-making process because we knew one way or another it wasn't going to tip the scales for us. So we really didn't.
And a question from Greta and Evan Cooper. How do I get a second passport?
After residing here for 10 years, you can apply for the Portuguese passport.
I think maybe they are referring to the US second passport.
The US second passport. We will guide you on this. You just have to show that you have an appointment. But this is something you'll guide you the practicalities of that, because according to US laws, if your passport is legally withheld, you are entitled to request another one. We will send you an email with the details, Greta.
And I'll just see if I'm missing anything else that we didn't cover. From Jeff Aliber, what will be the frequency of reapplying to residency for non-Europeans?
So after 2 years, you have to apply for more 3 years. After 5 years, you can apply for permanent residency. When you have the permanent resident status, you just have to apply for a new card every 5 years, but it's not an immigration process itself. It doesn't have the complexity of renewing a visa.
Mhm. And another question, if the nationality law is updated from 5 to 10 years, do you anticipate people going to court to apply the Constitution's principle of trust and legitimate expectations for applying the 5 years?
I think some people might do that. But yes, some people might do that. There might be class actions in respect to that. But we are not 100% sure what will be the decision of the court. What we have seen in previous situation is that legitimate expectancies normally are guarded when people already had submitted the application, not before. Because if it was not like that, any country would be completely, it will be for any country to impossible to change their citizenship laws. And Portugal is just following international guidance and international rules.
And another question for the Roberts. How did the visa appointment go, and were you able to do it together?
Want to answer that?
No.
The visa appointment, how did it go? It went well, and yeah, we definitely did it together. You know, again, it just boiled down to us being prepared, you know, for everything that they asked for. And that, of course, is because of the guidance from Sandra and her team. As Louise mentioned previously, both agents, whether it was the AIMA or the VFS agent, both complimented us on being so well prepared and organized.
Mm-hmm. And yes, I think that was we also touched on that when we asked you. And to Dr. Sandra, given that the residency requirement is now 10 years, what will be the renewal frequency? A question from
I didn't understand fully the question. So, in terms of the visa, after the 2 years, you renew it for 3 years. After the 5 years, you can apply for the permanent residency, and that is permanent. You just have to ask for a new card every 5 years. Was that clear enough?
I think that's what they were asking. And just another question to Rod and Louise. Do you still have a home in the US?
We sold everything.
We knew we wanted to be here, so there was no reason to keep a home in the United States.
Yeah, so no, we do not have a home in the US anymore.
And just the last question on the citizenship, is there an age limit to the A2 language requirement, Dr. Sandra?
I would say no. As far as I know, there's no age limit.
Okay. And with that, I would like to ask Rod and Louise, what would your final note of advice be to our viewers who are on the fence of making the move, and what would your main tips be?
Well, you know, you can look at YouTube videos all you want and hear other people's opinions about where they live and what they love about it. But, you know, in my opinion, you've got to come to Portugal and actually be here, you know, stay in a different, you know, town or village, whatever you're looking for. Louise and I wanted something, you know, bigger than a village, but, you know, smaller than Lisbon, you know, and we spent, you know, 6 to 7 weeks literally driving. We rented a car, drove all over, Portugal, you know, spending time in different places. And that's how we ended up determining where we wanted to live. Anything short of that, I think you're kind of rolling the dice and taking a chance. You may not like where you end up if you don't do your due diligence. So I would highly recommend, you know, take the time, you know, spend the little bit of money or whatever that it takes to do that. You're investing in your future happiness. And I think that's the way to do it.
And we recommend hiring an attorney because Sandra and her team made everything so easy. I don't know what we would have done without them.
Okay. Thanks for your comments. It was also a pleasure for us to work with you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Sandra, looking at the 2026 landscape, what would your advice be to our viewers who are looking to move to Portugal and to our viewers who are interested in citizenship?
Yeah, so for all those that consider that, I think it's better to move faster than not. I have been telling this for a lot of time, and I believe that the D7 visa is one of the easiest paths to have residency in Europe, and probably sooner than later it will be changed. So for those that really consider that, I would advise them to prepare well, to seek professional assistance on an early stage, to know what they're looking for, to think about what are the non-negotiables, to understand well, to be very well prepared and informed before they do their move. But if they consider this, I would advise you to do that faster than the other way around, because I believe that there will be changes in the visas regime in Portugal. I have this impression for a long time, but now with also the scarcity of appointments, I would really think this is a big thing. So I would urge them to do it faster, but then to do it consciously and to do their homework and to ask all the questions as they to do an informed decision in anything they do in respect of visas.
And with that, I would also like to tell everyone that if their questions were not answered, please get back to us. We have left our contact details in the chat. And finally, Dr. Sandra, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. These are very important topics for our viewers, and I'm sure they feel much more confident knowing this and having their questions answered. And to Rod and Louise Roberts, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us. And you have also been fantastic clients to work with. And once again, I'll also leave our contact details in the chat. And to anyone who has further questions, we will be very open to having a free initial consultation with the first 20 that contact us.
Yes, and say SGP, your partner, to move to Portugal. And also, if you want other matters covered, tell us, because we will be doing other webinars about the themes that are most interesting for our audience.
Yes. And with that, we will end our session. We look forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.